Okay, I have an extra hour of time today in my day, so instead of doing some art or posting art like I usually do on this channel, I am going to be doing something a little bit different. So what I have here is I've made this tier list maker template of all the brothers from the game The Void, which if you haven't played, and not a lot of people have, is a really good game, and you should. So just to like review what's going on before I start putting people into tiers, The Void is I'm not gonna call it a horror game. It's like an atmospheric gardening simulator. It's on Steam. If you're curious about what the deal is with that, you should just check it out on there. I highly recommend it. I think it's a great game. It's easily one of my favorites. So the brothers from The Void are the primary antagonists of the game. They are sort of monstrous, half human, half machine, body horror nightmares. So if you have followed me on any social media for any amount of time, you could understand why that would be an appealing sort of character design for me to want to rank. Yeah, so for this video, I'll just be ranking them on things like appearance, their voices, because that can be a big part of their characters for some of them, just how cool their combat is. The Void isn't necessarily a game I would say is known for its combat. The entire experience is a little bit clunky, so some of them are definitely better than others, and we will get to why that is in a little bit. And I don't know, just if there's any fun facts about them that I happen to know off the top of my head. I haven't gone back and looked at the wiki before doing this tier list. I just kind of want to go off of what I remember about each of these characters and just my impressions of them. So if I get any minor facts wrong, I do apologize. Okay, and we're gonna go in alphabetical order. So unfortunately, we're going to start with Caterpillar. So Caterpillar is one of the first characters, one of the first brothers you meet in the game. He is, I'll just leave him here for now. Yeah, he's one of the first brothers you meet in the game. He is one of the, I'm gonna say, primary quest givers. There's a couple brothers that give more quests than others, and because he appears so early, I think he's definitely one of the ones where it's like, he starts giving you tasks really early. So let's start with his design. I don't really like Caterpillar's design at all. I think he doesn't fit in with the rest of them. I think he's just like, the top of half of him is like a normal guy, and then the bottom half of him is just like this orb thing, which, I don't know, he's just like the world's lamest centaur to me. I think they're all part machine in some ways, but the fact that he has like these big thick cables running around inside of his abdomen that just connect to this orb thing in a way that doesn't really make sense on how it would help move the orb, because he travels around by, you know, rolling around. It just doesn't compute in my brain, and despite the fact that I like the elements of, you know, all these tubes going up inside someone's chest cavity, like, that's cool, it just doesn't make sense to me, and that just, I can't suspend my disbelief long enough to enjoy his character design. I just think it's very bland in comparison to some of the others. Also, I fucking hate his, he's got like this Dracula thing, like the, what do you call it, the collar. He's got like a popped collar, but he's not wearing a shirt, and that just, I cannot take him seriously. He looks like a really, really dumb, scary Mr. Clean. And I hate to keep railing on him, because obviously I enjoy all of these characters. I think they're interesting, especially design-wise. Like, none of them I would say are like, oh, this is the worst thing ever, I can't stand this. But just like, come on, man. Like, his voice, I'm sure his voice actor tried very hard, and his voice actor does do another character on this list, and we will get to that too. But he just sounds like a guy. Like, he just sounds like some guy, not even like a particularly threatening guy. Like, he just sounds really lame. He doesn't have any voice filters on him. I don't know if voice filters would have made it better. Maybe like an echo effect would have been cool, but he's just really underwhelming, which is disappointing considering how early you meet him and how much he like helps to set the standard of what you expect from the brothers that would be coming up next. Yeah, so I'm gonna drop him in D tier which is a sad way to start this video, but I don't know. I just feel like he has the potential to be so much more. And his combat, I'll be honest, I don't remember it too well, which isn't necessarily a good thing. He sends like orbs that look like the bottom half of him, like after you, smaller ones, and they just chase you around and do damage, which isn't the most interesting thing ever. Like, it's not super difficult, you just have to run away from them, but if the fight lasts too long, it can really like pile up and start killing you. But I don't know. I just didn't get a good impression from him on any front, and it's a little disappointing, but we'll just leave him in D tier. So next we have Ironclad, and I'm just going to leave him at the front. And like I said, alphabetical order, so this is not by order of favorites or anything. Ironclad, I think Ironclad is really cool. He's kind of this human tank hybrid, like he's like a gun tank, which is, I think, really cool. He's got like the big tank treads, and he's got like arms sticking out of his tank body, and then his head's on the top. I really like the layers of guns that go around his neck. He's got like 3 tiers of guns, and when we'll talk about his combat in a minute, but yeah, those become relevant during that. And I like how he's got like the long neck in a pipe, which like moves around, kind of like you see a snake periscoping. Like, he does that, and it's creepy and weird. He also does this thing where he'll like open up, he's got like the metal tank stomach area, and he'll open up the front door of it, and his head will like disappear from the top and pop out of there, which is always creepy during battle, because I don't know about you, but I really don't want to be on eye level with any of these guys. Yeah, I think his design is good, and his voice is pretty good. He sounds like a crotchety old man. He's one of the brothers that does not like you. Like, he explicitly does not like you when you play the game. Some of them are like, yeah, okay, this guy might be cool, and some of them are like, no, fuck you, go to the nightmare, die. Ironclad does not like you, and he just sounds like a really like condescending, like old timer that doesn't care about your youngin opinions, which I think really works for him. As far as his combat goes, I could be wrong about this might be one of the little facts I'm wrong about, but if I'm recollecting correctly, he has the most health in the game, making him one of the harder bosses to deal with, just because there's no like tips or tricks, there's no like, you know, there's no way to cheese it. You just kind of have to wail on him until he flops over. So he's just got a lot of health, and if you've played the Void, you'll know that your ammunition is also your health bar, and also you only have like one thing in the game, that's color. You have to use color to attack, you have to use color to defend, you have to use color as your health bar. If you run out of color, the game ends. So having to use so much color just to like chip away at this guy's health bar is nerve-wracking, to say the least, if you don't know what you're doing. I'll be honest, I downloaded an easy patch the first time I played the game, which like halves his health, and I still had trouble with him. So so during combat, he'll fire at you with his guns, and then I think once he runs out of ammo, he'll just start like ejecting guns, like the actual body of the gun from him, which will like land near you and like cause damage. And it's just like a long fight, but I feel like the mechanic of being shot at, like, that's so simple. The mechanic of being shot at is enough to make it interesting, you know, because long-ranged attacks, a lot of these guys don't have long-ranged attacks because, you know, they'll primarily attack with, like, by running up to you and trying to stab you or whatever with their spiky body parts. But I think the fact that this guy is mostly a ranged fighter with a lot of health just adds a lot to the experience of fighting him. I'm gonna put him in A. I think I think there's there's just like a lot going on. He's definitely one of the boss fights where it feels like this game doesn't feel like 100% complete. It's one of those games where it's like, oh yeah, I can definitely see where they were trying to go with this, but either they ran out of time or money. But Ironclad is probably the fight where I have to say, like, oh yeah, they got most, if not all, of everything they wanted to get into that fight. Whereas the other ones are like, you know, they might have gotten halfway and then had to give up somewhere. Alright. So, next is the Mantid. He's also one of the first brothers you meet. I think he's actually the very first brother you meet. Which is, I think his design is either the best or the second best in the game. I think he's got a really, really cool design. He's like on stilts, like his legs and his arms and his legs are on stilts, and then he's got another stilt coming through his chest, and I think he's just like very spindly and threatening looking. Like he looks like his name, right? He looks like a giant bug, like, and I don't know about you, but I don't like giant bugs, so it's an effective monster design, and looking at him, you can like automatically know, okay, yeah, like I know exactly how this guy is gonna try to attack me. He's gonna try to skewer me in like 8 different ways, and it's gonna be awful. And yeah, his design is really good. I think A+ on that. His voice is fine. He kind of sounds like he's talking out of a tin can, but I think that's a voice filter and not like a microphone problem. So I'll give that like an okay. Like, the voice actor did a fine job. I don't have any problem with it. Combat, the first time I fought the Mantid, I had no idea what was going on, and I died immediately because I just, for some reason, could not compute what was going on. So during his fight, he's completely immune to damage unless he's absorbing color. Like, there'll be random color drops around the arena, and once he notices that there's a color drop, he'll go to it and he'll start feeding on it. And that's when you have to attack him. Like, he'll chase you around the arena and you can't do anything to him. It's basically just a game of keep away, except instead of keeping away an item, you're keeping away your body. I think it's an okay combat. It's just kind of tedious because if you miss the window where he's vulnerable for like, there's like 20 seconds per window, I think. If you miss the window, you have to like wait another 30 seconds until he's vulnerable again. And if you're running low on color, it can start to get stressful fast. Luckily, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think you can also steal his color drops. Like, when the color drops in the arena and he goes to get it, I think you could just snipe it from him. Which can be good. I don't know how realistic it would be to just grind this battle to get infinite color. Like, I think that would be more tedious than it's work. And again, I don't know if you actually can snipe it from him. I feel like I tried once and I don't remember the result. But yeah, I really like his design. His voice is fine, and combat, while a little bit tedious, is not awful. Like, it's fine. I'm gonna put him in S, just because like I said, I really like his design, and everything else is like okay, so I'm gonna put him in S for that. Oh, special note about this one. The sound he makes when he walks, he makes a very specific noise, and that sound has been buried in my psyche for like 6 years now. No matter what, if I hear that sound, I will know exactly where it's from, and it haunts me. It's just very specific. I'll play it. I'll go back and edit, and I'll play it over this video, but that's just a side note. I think, yeah, it just really ties the whole experience together. The next character we have, and let me just look up how to pronounce this name, because, it's a long one. Mongrel Fear. I think I pronounced that correctly, Mongrel Fear, which I think is a type of air balloon? I might be wrong about that. Okay. So he is of all the brothers in the whole game, if you could count one of them as like being actually friendly to you and like being a bro, basically, that would be Mongrel Fear. He is sympathetic to your cause to a degree. He's not like gonna switch sides for you or anything, but he's understanding. He's just trying to keep everything together, basically. I think out of all the brothers, he probably has the most like actual character. Most of the brothers are just kind of like, okay, representations of like evil or corruption or whatever, but Mongrel Fear is actually like, okay, this is a character that has like character-esque traits, like he's an individual rather than just like a monster with spooky lines or whatever. So I'm gonna grade him like, okay, I'm gonna give him extra points for actually having a character that I enjoy. I think he's fun to talk to. I think he's got some really like good lines, like, spoiler alert, but not that this game really, spoilers don't really matter, but spoiler alert. He has the final glyph that you need to finish the game with like a quote-unquote good ending. So you have to kill him in order to finish the game in the intended way. So he has like some dialogue where he's like, oh yeah, I know you're trying your best, but I really just can't give this to you, like, without a fight. I'm sorry, you know, like, I know you're trying your best and I am too, but it has to come down to this. We have to fight, which I think is really good. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. He doesn't talk like a 20-something-year-old girl. But, yeah, I think he gets bonus points for actually being, you know, like a semi-sympathetic character. As for his design, I'll be honest, his design does not do it for me. He has much of the same problems that I think Caterpillar does. He's just like top half of a normal dude on bottom half of a garbage can. Literally in the art book, I have a PDF copy of the art book. One of the example references, it's just a photo of a trash bag, which is funny, which is really funny, but I don't know. It's just not a character design that appeals to me. I understand why, because he's like, his name is like a type of air balloon thing, and he's like a balloon man. But I don't know. Yeah, he just kind of looks like a Mr. Clean Centaur again. In some of his concept art, I think he had like hair, which, like, it's like Hot Topic boy hair, which is really, really funny. But I don't think that would have improved his design. I think that would have made it worse. But the fact that it exists is good. But let's see. His voice is fine. He also sounds like a tired old man. Like he's just really done with the world. He's on his last legs. He's trying to keep it together. I think that works for him, especially considering his quote unquote character. Yeah, I think his voice actor did a good job. His fight involves going up and down, like, there's different boss arenas, and his boss arena has like multiple levels where you have to chase him up and down and like try to kill him. It's not difficult. I remember it being one of the easier ones. Not necessarily interesting, but not boring. Definitely not boring. There's lots of running to do. Yeah, so I'd rate it as average. Like, wasn't the best gaming experience I've ever had, but definitely not the worst, especially not in this game, Caterpillar. I'm gonna put him in B. Yeah, I'm gonna put him in B just because I don't like his design, and for me, when it comes to a good boss and good enemies in a game, design really is key for me. I'm a game artist. I specialize in body horror. You know, I love a good monster, and if the monster design just isn't doing it for me, then I can't rate them highly. I'm definitely a bit biased in that regard. Alright, so next we have Pit. This guy. I'm very conflicted on how I feel about Pit. To start with, we'll just go in the same order I've done with all the others. His design is really cool. I think he's kind of got the centaur problem too, except it's less of a problem because I feel like it's got reason to be like that. And I say reason, that's definitely the wrong word, but it feels like it belongs that way rather than like, oh, baby's first monster, it's a centaur. The top half of him's like a guy sitting down, like with his hands up, like he's got armrests, like on the armrests of his thing. And then the bottom half of him is this absolutely massive drill bit. I think he's the biggest boss in the game, actually, but most of him's underground, so you can't really tell. I just really like the imagery of like this guy like enthroned on this piece of like construction material. I think that's really cool. I like the spinning halo thing he's got going around him. It's not a halo, it's like an orb of wire, a wire orb. I just think his design is really, really good. Especially when you see it in combat. All these bosses have a great sense of scale to them, except for, like, Caterpillar. But fuck that guy. I think especially Pit because... Oh, we'll get to his combat later. First, speaking of Caterpillar, I'm sorry I keep ragging on Caterpillar this whole time. I just really don't... I should have made an F tier, because... No, that would be mean, though. Can't do that now, it's too late. He's got the same voice actor as, Caterpillar. I think this is the worst of the voice actor's two performances. I think as Caterpillar, the voice actor, he sounds more just like a guy. This guy, he sounds like a guy who's, like, unsure. He doesn't really know what he's doing. I could be wrong, but I think I read on the wiki that that's kind of Pit's character as well. Like, he's kind of on the fence. Like, he doesn't really know what's going on. He's kind of confused. He's got doubts. But, like, with a different voice, I think that could have worked, but this one, it just sounds like the voice actor doesn't know necessarily what's going on. Like, they don't really know the character they're playing, they're just kind of reading a script. Yeah. I don't know the name of the voice actor, but it's nothing personal, man. I'm sorry. As for his combat, he does this thing where he's a giant drill. So he'll drill into the ground, he'll disappear, and then he'll pop up somewhere else in the arena, which I think is fun. It can really catch you off guard if he pops up right underneath you. That scared me a couple times. I think other than that, you just kind of like fire projectiles at him, like, or lay traps for him. That's what I did. You can lay traps for him and hope he lands in one of them. I thought this was a good combat sequence. Nothing super crazy. I'm going to put him in... I don't know whether I want to put him in B or C, because I really hate his voice actor, but, like, everything else about him is good. I'm gonna put him below Mongrel Fear in B. Just because... I don't know. If I was playing this game in a different language, he'd probably be much higher, because I assume the Russian dub is better, because that's the original dub. And I hear the German dub is pretty good, too. I don't know anything about any of the other dubs, unfortunately. YouTube is very sparse with the void content, so I haven't had the chance to listen to those. But yeah, I'll put him in low B. He'd be higher if his voice didn't annoy the hell out of me. Patriarch! Patriarch is fun. He does look like a giant butthole. That is my biggest problem with Patriarch's design. He's the oldest brother, or so he says. I think it's between both he and the Mantid say, like, oh, I'm the oldest brother. So I don't know what's going on there, but we'll just say he's the oldest because his name is literally Dad. His like design really captures, like, oh, withered old man in a wheelchair. Like, he's got this giant mechanical wheelchair that he's grafted into, which is a pretty cool design, but I can't get over the fact that where his head should be is just like a giant anus. It's distracting. Yeah. So I'm gonna casually say that I enjoy his design. Both the parts that I genuinely enjoy, like the body horror metal parts, and the fact that I just laugh whenever I look at his butthole face. His voice actor, I think his voice actor did a great job. He definitely sounds, he's got like his voice has a lot of gravitas to it. You know, he demands respect when he talks, and I think that really comes through. He's got like this way of talking to the player character, like, oh, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed, which really, like, it really comes through like that. His name is Dad. He's like looking down at you, and every time you find him, you're just like, oh man, I'm in trouble. I think that really works in his favor. His combat, I'm trying to remember what his combat's like. I think he just chases after you. Yeah, I think this is one of the chase. He might have an extra mechanic I'm not remembering, but I think this is one of the simple ones where he just like runs after you. He tries to get your ass. Yeah, so this combat's fine. I don't particularly like chase combat. I don't like chase as a mechanic in any game because I am extremely easily stressed by that kind of thing. And we'll get to another worse version of that later in the list. But yeah, I like Patriarch. I think he does a good job for what he's supposed to do. I'm gonna put him below Ironclad in tier A. Just because of the butthole. I can't stop looking at it. Alright. Okay. Next one. This one, let me check how to pronounce his name. Because I don't know. His name is Triumphator. Triumphator. Yes. Okay. Triumphator is... He's weird. He's got a fun design, actually. He's kind of like dude parts, but like stuck in a music box. He's like a church organ with legs, and then he's got like a horn coming off the back of him and a bunch of bells and whistles on the front. And there's just like a man inside of it, which I think is cool. It definitely doesn't feel like, you know, weird centaur territory because he's just got so much going on around his flesh body that it definitely feels much more integrated. It feels much more purposeful than just like top half man, bottom half music box. And I like the way that his design factors into his combat, and we'll get to that in a minute. His voice, he sounds like he's talking through like an instrument. He sounds like he's like yelling at you through like the horn of a trumpet or something, which works because he's got like the mouthpiece in front of him and then this giant horn in the back, which I assume is how he's actually talking to you, like in lore. I don't know, he's kind of a dick. Obviously they're all kind of a dick because they're the enemies, but he's especially just like, he's like an asshole, like directly an asshole. Yeah, I don't know if that grades anywhere on my scale. I just felt like I had to say it. Like, he's mean. He doesn't... None of these characters respect women. Like, the game, a core feature of this game is the fact that the brothers don't respect women. But he especially doesn't respect women. That doesn't really factor into my rating anywhere. It's just, like, a funny note to me that he's just, like... He's just an asshole. Combat. His combat involves him... Okay. So what his combat is it's kind of like a game of hide and seek. He will teleport around the arena, and you'll only be able to tell where he is by the fact there's music. He makes music when he teleports. So you have to follow the music and find him and shoot him. I think it's pretty interesting. It can be very scary when he teleports right behind you. Nothing personnel, kid. But especially since he's so big, all these characters are massive in comparison to the player. But yeah, I think that he is a fun character. One more point about his design. He's got like his music box legs. Like, he sits like a table. So he's got 4 of those wooden legs, metal legs things. And then he's got 2 like spindly human legs underneath. I don't think they should have included the human legs. I think that just makes it look goofy, especially since you never actually see him walk. Like I said, he just teleports. So I'm gonna put him in high B. I'm gonna put him above Mongrel Fear. Just because, I don't know, I feel like out of all the character designs, he's the one that seems to have the most purpose. Like, I look at him, I think, oh, music box, man, that's unconventional for, like, this hellscape. Like, this place so devoid of art. And he's just like a walking church organ. And that's, I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. I just vibe with that. So next, we have Tyrant. And he is the only brother that does not have an accompanying sister. So he just kind of roams the void and causes trouble wherever he goes. I really, really loved his design. I think that... I don't know whether I like Mantid's design or Tyrant's design more, but I think... overall... You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say I like Mantid's design slightly better, but Tyrant's design is really good. He looks like one of the Thrones angels, where it's like the wheel of eyes. He's got kind of that going on, where he's got like 4 heads per side and then like a bunch of hands that are all moving and stuff. It looks really cool in action. He moves around just by rolling, which is nice. His combat features that heavily. Trying not to get run over. But we'll get to that. Yeah, I just think his design is really solid. It's not particularly original. You know, there's a lot of, like I said, the Thrones angels. There's a lot of characters inspired by that sort of trope, but it's cause it's a good fucking trope. Yeah, he's just a good design. His voice, he's got like this very low, like inhuman, gravelly voice, which kind of sounds like all of his heads are speaking at once, which I assume in lore they are, which I think works for him. Can be a little hard to hear what he's saying over the background music sometimes, but honestly I don't have a problem with that. It gives him like this mysterious vibe almost. There's one cutscene I specifically remember where he's like talking mad shit about you, where there's a track in the background called Brother's Voice, and that track combined with him talking and like just the animations and everything, it's just like, I think it's a very well put together viewing experience. Like, it's very cohesive. Some of these characters, they just don't feel cohesive in a lot of ways. Like, there's something that breaks the immersion about them, whether it be the voice actor or the design or just like their combat isn't super great. But I don't know, Tyrant just feels very like, yeah, okay, this thing is threatening, I'm afraid of this, but like in a fun, cool way. As far as this combat goes, what he does is he spits out like acid puddles, which are really, really easy to avoid. His combat isn't excellent, I'll be honest, but it's fun. I'm thinking about this with like art brain. It's fun to just watch him like roll around, because he's just a weird creature, and it's fun to just watch him exist. And that's what combat's for, because you don't really see any of the brothers aside from their intro cutscene where they enter the void. You don't see them walk around, you don't see them move outside of their combat segments, because they just kind of hang out in their little cutscene rooms. They just kind of stand there. His combat is like meh. He spends most of it trying to run you over or just like firing acid at you, which is easy to avoid, not particularly difficult. But everything else about him is just like so clean that I'm gonna put him in S right below Mantid. Like, if they'd had, like, I don't know how much money it takes to make better combat, but if they'd had that much more money, I think he could have probably been the best boss in the game. Next we have, who is this? Warden. We have Warden. I have, strong feelings about Warden, but, like, I don't know. I think Warden's design is very, very good. He's, kind of, his body is a hanging cage, and the bottom opens up, and his ribs are like the bars of the cage, which is really cool. So he'll capture you inside of him and then like make faces at you while you're trapped in there, which I think is a cool design. And he's got like this like high-pitched creaky voice, like, and it matches the fact that whenever he like moves around, he makes like this creaking rope sound. Like, his voice just like perfectly matches his design, but it's not a design that personally appeals to me. I recognize that it's an excellent design, but it's not a design that I personally enjoy. So I don't know, this tier list is not objective, obviously, because it's my opinion, but it feels weird putting him so low when I know he's objectively pretty cool. His combat involves a lot of running away again. The fun thing being that when he captures you and he like traps you and he makes faces at you, which is like scary. It reminds me of some of like the Resident Evil, like when characters get really in your face kind of thing, because these characters don't do that because they're simply too big. Their faces are too far away. If you get really close to them, you'll just see like the bottom of their feet. But he gets really up close and personal, which I think is fun. Other than that, I don't really remember if his combat has any other special stuff going on. I'm going to put him in C, but not because I dislike him. Well, okay, not because he's bad, but because I personally don't vibe with his whole deal. Like, I think he's cool in concept, I think he's cool in execution, but he's just not the kind of character that I enjoy. Sorry to any passionate Warden fans out there. I know there's a lot of you, probably. Alright, last but not least, we have Whaler. I don't know how to feel about Whaler. Whaler, his design is... Okay, his design is just like a headless man in cowboy boots, using his own head as a backpack, which in any other game I'd say is the, like, that's awesome. Like, that character description alone just makes me, like, interested in what's going on here, but he's just, like, so tame in comparison to everyone else. Like, you've got your wheel of hands, you've got your, like, spiky man, you've got man tank, butthole, and then you have just, like, headless cowboy. Like, in any other game, I think he would be really, really high on the list, but the fact that he's just, like, he's just a tall guy with some head problems. Though I will say, the first time when, in the cutscene where they all walk in for the first time, and you, like, get introduced to their character, the setting of the cutscene is very dark, so you can't see much. So I thought he was just, like, a headless guy. So I was like, oh, okay, that's super lame. Like, I didn't notice the fact that his head is glued to the back of him, which is a fun detail. I like that. And I like the fact that he talks out of that head. I like the fact that that's the head, the mouth moves. Horrifying Dora the Explorer experience. But yeah, the first time I watched the cutscene, I did not notice the head, and then when I got to a different cutscene where he's, like, in his more well-lit, like, character, background, and it focused on the head explicitly, I was like, what the fuck? Hello? How long have you been hiding that back there? Yeah, okay, yeah, so his design is, I'm gonna say it's okay. It's just okay. I feel bad for saying that because I do like it, but it is just okay in comparison to a lot of the others. His voice, I love his voice. I think he's got, like, his voice is lowered, like, beyond reasonable human ability, so it's, like, edited, so it sounds really low and, like, scary. It's, like, warped and stuff, which is cool. I think that works. It doesn't particularly make sense for his character, but I think it's cool regardless. It adds something to an otherwise, uninteresting design. Yeah, I also, just side note about the design, I like how his head moves whenever he talks, because his head isn't just like a backpack, like it's attached to him and it moves around, like he's looking around back there. It's kind of gross, but like fun. His combat, okay. When I said we will talk about chase sequences, this is the one where we're going to talk about chase sequences. In video games, I have a very large dislike for video games that involve someone chasing you around. Like, I cannot stand games like Slender, or like even the new Resident Evil games where there's like Mr. X is like wandering around, you can hear him and you know he's chasing you. Like, I cannot stand that. I'm way too stressed for that kind of thing already. His boss battle is basically just that, but like contained. He'll just chase you around the arena. And at first, it's really easy because he's huge, he's slow, he just kind of lumbers around and you're just like, wee-hee-hee, here I go, you can't catch me. And he can't catch you as long as you keep moving. But as the fight goes on, he gets faster and faster. And I didn't realize that the first time I was playing, obviously, because this isn't exactly a game people talk about, so I was going in completely blind. So towards the end of the fight, I look around and he's like right on top of me and I nearly shit my pants. So I'm gonna, while it's a mechanic I hate, it's also the most vivid memory I have of this game is him just like turning around to see him like barreling towards me at 90 miles an hour. So I'm gonna put him in low A, just because I think that while his design is kind of lame, everything else is fine, and that memory stuck with me so violently that I will never forget that specific form of fear. Alright, so that's everyone. Okay, it looks like it's pretty even. You know, I liked most of the characters overall. I think they're cool. Yeah, you know me, I like monster design. So if it's a cool monster, that's good in my books, except for Caterpillar. Fuck that guy. I don't know if I'll do a similar tier list with the sisters in the future. To be honest, when playing these games, I'm mostly paying attention to the scary monsters and not the sexy ladies. So oof. But I might do a tier list in the future of the sisters. There's just so many of them. And they're all just like, they all look basically the same. So that takes a big part of like why this is interesting out of it for me. Because they're all just, you know, like beautiful women. Like, can't go, how do you go wrong with that? They're all S tier for just grading them on that. But yeah, that is my tier list for the brothers from The Void. If you haven't played The Void, go check it out. It goes on sale on Steam. I think like every holiday it goes on sale and it's like $2. I highly recommend it, especially if you like Pathologic. It's the same company. It's the same game studio who makes this, so maybe check it out. Also, I talk about The Void on my Twitter sometimes, so if you like the same things that I like, you can find me at dt75art at twitter.com. But that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, if you watched the whole way through.